And this movie is just getting started. It's unpleasant and rough at times. George, he calls for an ambulance, and we flash to paramedics taking away Music's grandma, Millie, on a stretcher, never to be seen from again, leaving Music all alone in a hallway by herself. We have a couple brief musical flashes that I suppose are supposed to be Music's way of somehow comprehending the loss of a grandmother, before a paramedic just asks George if she has any relatives they can contact. That's when we transition to Zoo, Music's sister, who we find kicked back against the wall on a fold-out chair, dead asleep in an AA meeting, long after the meeting has concluded. She's got a power strip plugged into the wall, and she is charging every device known to mankind. Just as she's getting her Z's there, And the woman running this building tries to wake her up. She begrudgingly gets up, and she just starts complaining about the other alcoholics, and how their heckin' boring stories made her fall asleep. But before the woman can kick her out, she gets her to sign her court papers that require her to come to these meetings. Sure, whatever, Sue. This is when she gets the call from George, while she's getting the papers signed, and she shows so little remorse over the loss of her grandmother that the lady actually questions if her grandmother is dead or not. She says she is, before she tries to buy the 90-day chip that this lady has off of her, which it's obvious she won't sell it, so Zeus steals it. She steals it for no more reason than to show it off to George in the next scene in an unnecessary attempt to gain some sobriety street cred. Yeah, meet Zoo, everyone. This is the heroine of our story. Tig has her own children's show in this universe, by the way, which is where we start off this scene, as she asks a confusing question that just baffled me when I heard it the first time. She asks,
"On a quest for the radical?"
And again, let's just cut to the confusing chase, shall we? What the heck is radical, you ask? I assure you in this case it's not the Urban Dictionary definition, which defines it as a mix of raggy and tragic, with raggy being a violent or aggressive person. No, see, you actually need to be paying close attention to see his cryptic finger art in order to be able to figure out this little riddle. You see, Sia has a tattoo of the word radical on her inner right pointer finger, which is a Sia trademark term, by the way. So don't just go tossing it around. It is properly defined, just in case you're wondering, as a combination of the words rad and magical. Just so you know. The children's show playing on the TV in the background also really interested me. I recognized the host at a glance. His name is Tig, and he's a comedian that came out publicly as trans back when it was unheard of and pretty dangerous to do. I've watched some of his stand-up specials, and it made it a little weird to watch him in this children's show fever dream right out of the mind of Dallas Clayton. This is right when Zeus shows up, barging into the apartment unannounced before getting confrontational with George. And George, understandably, is a little bit short with her. And so she asks him what she ever did to him. To which he reminds her that she broke into his apartment, stole his TV, and fell off his fire escape just some 5 months ago. And Zoo, she is the kind of person that just has an excuse for everything. It's not her fault. She was drunk and high, and she just thought it was her grandma's apartment. Come on, George, be reasonable. This is how Zoo treats everyone. And you would hope that she has an overriding emotional story arc that sees her become a more developed person capable of caring and understanding for others, but that, my friends, is a fool's dream. You ain't gonna get that here, so get any redemption arc out of your head right now. Zoo is a horrible person who takes advantage of everyone she knows, and she took advantage of them when she was an addict, and she's still doing it now while she's sober, and it ain't gonna stop. It just seems like deep down, Zoo is a sociopath, because her final deferral from all of George's accusation is to bust out that 90-day pin that she stole, so that she can convince him she's been sober long enough to be a reliable guardian. If you're watching the background, you can catch a little bit more of that children's show here, where you'll get to see the latest thing that haunts my dreams. It's a nightmare-fueled monster that feeds on your sense of self-satisfaction, and the creature on TV colored in multicolored shreds of ribbon paper. Her name is the Encourager, and she's a friend of children's book author Dallas Clayton, Along with encouraging people, she's also helped him before on some large-scale art project. And yes, she's actually from real life. I mean, the whole costume and character and whatnot. They scare me. Anyway, George gives Zoo an envelope before leaving, and Zoo tries to talk to Music, and Music says go to bed, and so that's what she does. And Zoo, just being the biggest piece of human garbage in history, calls up the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health as soon as her sister is asleep in hopes that they might have some sort of, quote, pick-up service that she can exploit that will haul off her underprivileged sister. And yes, she does actually ask if they, quote, do pickups, or if she has to drop Music off. And the girl on the other end is just so baffled as to how anyone from the real world would act like that. She just asks, like a laundry service? She tells Zoo they don't do pickups. And this Zoo, she just says, but what if I wasn't here? But you are there. But what if I wasn't? The woman hangs up on her, thank goodness. And this is Zoo, everybody. Again, this is our heroine. She pulls out the blue envelope George gave her, opens it, digs inside, pulls out a handful of confetti, digs around some more, and finds a handwritten will, written out on double-spaced spiral notebook paper. All Diary of a Wimpy Kid style, with scratch and sniff stickers included. It starts off immediately with Zoo. There's no money. Which, who would think that there was money? And then it leads on with a sweet little piece trying to encourage her to take care of her sister and reminding her of how much Zoo meant to Music when they were growing up. And Zoo seems completely uninterested. I guess we can at least say that she doesn't make any shitty condescending remarks about her dead grandma here. We switch to Music in her room as we see the light of a flashlight peer through her window. The light, we will learn, is coming from Felix, the next-door neighbor we saw earlier walking with Music. And honestly, this whole relationship between the two of them creeps both of us out, as it seems overly romanticized without being cute and forgivable like, say, Benny and June. This whole unpleasant feeling isn't helped as the flashlight transitions us to a musical number which literally starts off, night falls and I am longing for your touch. Baby, don't leave me. Music is wearing a pink poof dress with cotton candy earmuffs in a blue stage set with a large backdrop of dog books. Felix then appears with Music in this dance number, he himself now dressed as a dog, and Music dances with him before getting on top of him and literally riding him through a triangle-shaped doorway that is pink and what I can only assume is a cotton candy tunnel, but it is a lot to take in, and it seems very suggestive. Nohea at least has some good notes after watching it a few times. He suggested that the cotton candy represents dreams, and that this is Felix carrying Music off to dreamland. Innocent, no big deal. That being said, the whole Felix and Music dance piece combined with her riding him as a dog through a pink tunnel gives the piece a very weird feel. There's just no denying the imagery, creates some undertones. They're a little uncomfortable. It's also a little confusing for me, especially as she just walks out of this music video down the hall, fully awake and shouting "Make you eggs" at her sister Zoo, who is dead asleep. The whole "Make you eggs" thing is pretty funny, though. It's apparently something Music just starts shouting if she hasn't had her eggs yet. She's just like, "Make you eggs." She'll also start shouting "Braid your hair" if she hasn't had her hair braided at the breakfast table. A critical mistake that Zoo makes. This funny scene quickly becomes very cringy as Music goes into a full-on flip-out, as she just begins screaming, "Braid my hair," louder and louder, throwing things and hitting herself. Thankfully, Ebo shows up, and he just pushes Music to the ground and holds her there, telling us that he is crushing her with his love. Which is not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not a thing, by the way. This is both dangerous and a sure way to make an episode much, much worse. Now, disclaimer out of the way, this somehow calms Music down. Ebo braids your hair, and we get our little meet cute in which Zoo explains away her stupid name before we go on our daily walk. Whew. So we're all walking together. It's nice. There's sunshine and everything like that, and Ebo's explaining how back in Ghana, he used to have a brother that was just like Music. and that he liked to be held sometimes too. And it's very sweet and touching. So Zoo asks Ebo, where is he now? And so Ebo, he just goes, he is dead now. So this is when he explains that special needs are not well understood in his country, and that the people of his village viewed his brother's disability as a curse. And this whole thing comes off pretty racially coded in my opinion, and the conversation also just changes subject there, casually leaving us to wonder, did the people of Ebo's village kill his brother? Because of their superstitions? The next thing he mentions, right after he tells us that his brother is dead, is the people of his village viewed it as a curse. So, it just gives us some racial undertones I don't appreciate, honestly. We go through the rest of the walk together, and thankfully I can save you most of this conversation as it's trivial. We do get a weird shot in the library of Felix peering at music through a set of bookcases, and again, I'm not fully sure what this is supposed to be establishing, but let's pretend it's an innocent mid-teenage friendship kind of thing. We're going to go home now. We're about to enter the apartment, and once again, I find my jaw just on the floor as Zoo tells Ebo that she's actually planning on sending music to the people pound later. She tells him it's a joke. She tries to play it off as a joke, but it doesn't come off as a joke at all. This is, of course, supposed to be establishing them, getting closer. And that of course, that doesn't work. It's horrendous that she would say that. That's not a cute little segue into establishing a relationship. It just makes me want to shout at Ebo to run. But he wouldn't really listen to me anyway, because that's not who Ebo is as a person. Ebo is a glutton for punishment. We then get to watch Felix go home to see his lovely home environment. He, like Ebo, leads a very racially stereotypical life as his adoptive parents are Chinese immigrants who just happen to run a very hot and very steamy laundromat. And just in case that wasn't enough, Felix's dad gets in his face the moment he gets home in this very aggressive manner that ends in what I can only assume are Chinese curses. Zoo back at home is rifling through her dead grandma's things, looking for stuff that she can hawk for $1 or $2. And she finds a secret stash of Monopoly money and some old toys that she and Zoo used to play with. We also get another short shot of that Nightmare Radical show. And this is where we learn that Zoo's mom was a junkie, and that she accidentally killed Zoo's dog, sort of. And I don't think it really justifies Zoo or how she behaves to me, but I think this is supposed to establish her horrible, horrible character. Hopefully it does for you, because she's off to buy some drugs. No, don't worry, not for herself, for music. I mean, not to give to music, to sell for music, so that she can provide for music. And her drug dealer, he is a weird one, by the way. I think maybe he's supposed to be gay, although he does not act gay to me. He does have a very large wig collection, though, and a closet filled with all of the drugs. But bad news, because good old Zoo doesn't have all the money. She still does manage to convince Rudy to give her the dope, though, under the guise that her grandma's house is filled with stuff that she's going to be able to hawk for something. So he gives her a little front, along with, a little transactional kiss on the forehead. And she's right off to her friend Evelyn's house to sell her a cocktail of drugs so that she can dope herself up enough to deal with her high-strung mother who's going through a divorce. The Tig Show is playing on the background here, and the Encourager once again makes a loud appearance. This time on like a mega-wide 4-screen, widescreen TV, and honestly, I love this scene because you can hear Evelyn's mom call out, "Help! I don't know how to change the channel!" And just thank God that somebody else finds this show as obnoxious as I do. Honestly, this might make Evelyn's mom my favorite character. Evelyn also gives Zoo a lead on some drug sales here. The next few scenes get a little hard to follow, so just to simplify them, Ebo apparently has AIDS. It's really easy to miss, but he's making a phone call to try and get reduced prices for his HIV medication. Zoo is eventually going to sell him these HIV meds, but first we still have half a movie and a weird outdoor pool party to get to. So with that in mind, we find Zoo and Ebo and music all in a kiddie pool, curbside, Zoo once again making an ass out of herself. You can see music, Zoo and Ebo all hanging out in a little kiddie pool, all on the sidewalk, and when George complains about Zoo wasting water, Zoo just says, She's not wasting it, she's setting it free! While she sprays him down